NEC 210.25 addresses the location of branch circuit disconnecting means in two-family and multifamily dwellings. It states that in two-family and multifamily dwellings, the branch circuit disconnecting means for each dwelling unit shall be located in the dwelling unit or in a common area accessible to all tenants of the dwelling. Access to the branch circuit disconnecting means shall not require entering the dwelling unit of any other tenant. This means that the main breaker or switches that control the electrical circuits for each apartment or living space must be located either inside that unit or in a common area that every tenant can reach without having to go through another tenant's private space. The purpose of this rule is twofold. Firstly, it ensures that tenants have easy access to their own electrical disconnects for safety and maintenance reasons. Secondly, it prevents situations where one tenant might tamper with or shut off the power to another tenant's unit. If the electrical panels are located in a common area like a basement, hallway, or utility room, all tenants must be able to get to them freely. This setup is compliant with the code as long as no one has to enter another tenant's dwelling to reach their own disconnects. A building inspector's requirement to add a separate house panel specifically for common areas in a two-family dwelling might not be consistent with NEC 210.25 if the existing panels already meet the accessibility requirements. The NEC allows for common area circuits to be distributed among the existing panels, provided that all tenants can access these panels. In situations where a building inspector's ruling is believed to be incorrect, there is typically a process for appealing the decision at a higher level, often at the state or regional level. To successfully appeal, one would need to present a clear argument that the existing electrical setup meets the intent and specific requirements of NEC 210.25. This argument can be strengthened by consulting with a qualified electrician who can provide expert testimony or documentation. Additional considerations beyond the basic code requirements can help ensure smooth operation and prevent future disputes. Firstly, a tenant agreement that clearly outlines the location and purpose of the electrical panels can be beneficial. Secondly, clear labeling of the panels and circuits is crucial. Each circuit breaker should be labeled to indicate which area or appliance it controls, including common areas. Thirdly, security measures, such as adding a lockbox or restricted access to the panel area, can prevent unauthorized access and tampering. Remember, consulting with a licensed electrician is always recommended when dealing with electrical installations and code compliance. They can provide specific guidance based on the local codes and the unique circumstances of the property. When working with electrical panels and branch circuits, safety is paramount. Always energize circuits before working on them, and if you are not comfortable working with electricity, hire a qualified electrician. Here are some additional points to consider. The NEC, or National Electrical Code, is updated every 3 years, so it's essential to refer to the latest edition. Local codes may also have additional requirements or amendments to the NEC, so always check with the local building department. Branch circuits are the circuits that extend from the panel board to the various outlets, lights, and appliances throughout the building. Each branch circuit must be protected by a circuit breaker or fuse of the appropriate size. The size of the circuit breaker or fuse is determined by the ampacity of the wires in the circuit and the load that the circuit will serve. Common area circuits typically include lighting for hallways, stairways, and exterior areas, as well as power for common area receptacles and equipment like sump pumps or HVAC systems. These circuits should be clearly identified and separated from the circuits serving individual dwelling units. When distributing common area circuits between multiple panels, ensure that the load is balanced as much as possible to prevent overloading any one panel. It's also important to consider the future needs of the building when planning the electrical system. Allow for spare capacity in the panels to accommodate future additions or modifications. Regular inspections and maintenance of the electrical system are essential to ensure its safe and reliable operation. Check for loose connections, damaged wiring, and other potential problems. In the context of NEC 210.25 and the discussion of electrical panels in multi-family dwellings, several specific aspects of electrical installations and safety need to be clarified. These include the requirements for working space around electrical equipment, proper labeling, overcurrent protection, grounding, and the use of arc fault circuit interrupters, or FCIs, and ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCIs. Firstly, adequate working space around electrical equipment is crucial for safety and accessibility. NEC 210.25 specifies the requirements for working space about electrical equipment operating at 600 volts, nominal, or less. Sufficient space must be provided to allow safe operation and maintenance of the equipment. This includes minimum clearances in front of the equipment, as well as adequate headroom and width. The specific dimensions of the working space depend on the voltage of the equipment and the conditions of the installation. Secondly, proper labeling of electrical panels and circuits is essential for identifying and safely operating the electrical system. NEC 110.22 requires that all electrical equipment be legibly marked to indicate its purpose and rating. This includes labeling circuit breakers and switches to identify the circuits they control. In multi-family dwellings, it is especially important to clearly label common area circuits and the panels that serve them. Thirdly, overcurrent protection is a critical safety feature of any electrical system. Circuit breakers and fuses are designed to protect against overloads and short circuits, which can cause fires or other hazards. NEC 240.4 specifies the requirements for overcurrent protection of conductors and equipment. The size of the circuit breaker or fuse must be matched to the ampacity of the conductor it protects. It is important to never replace a circuit breaker or fuse with one of a higher rating, as this can overload the circuit and create a fire hazard. Fourthly, grounding is another essential safety feature of electrical systems. Grounding provides a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source, which helps to trip the overcurrent protection device and prevent electric shock. NEC 250 provides detailed requirements for grounding and bonding of electrical systems. All metal enclosures, equipment, and non-current carrying metal parts must be properly grounded. Fifthly, arc fault circuit interrupters, or FCIs, are designed to protect against arc faults, which are a common cause of electrical fires. FCIs detect the unique characteristics of arc faults and trip the circuit breaker to interrupt the flow of current. NEC 210.12 requires FCIs to be installed in many areas of dwelling units, including bedrooms, living rooms, and dining rooms. Sixthly, ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCIs, are designed to protect against ground faults, which can cause electric shock. GFCIs detect the leakage of current to ground and trip the circuit breaker to interrupt the flow of current. NEC 210.8 requires GFCIs to be installed in many areas where there is a risk of electric shock, such as bathrooms, kitchens, and outdoor locations. Regarding the installation of electrical panels in multi-family dwellings, it's also important to consider the accessibility requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA. The ADA requires that electrical panels and other equipment be accessible to people with disabilities. This includes providing adequate clear floor space in front of the equipment and ensuring that the controls are within reach. NEC 110.26 A3 requires that the working space in front of electrical equipment be clear and unobstructed. This includes ensuring that there are no obstacles, such as doors, stairs, or other equipment that would prevent access to the equipment. Another consideration is the coordination of the electrical system with other building systems, such as the fire alarm system and the HVAC system. It is important to ensure that these systems are properly integrated and that they do not interfere with each other. For example, the fire alarm system should be connected to a separate circuit that is not affected by power outages in other parts of the building. In addition to the specific requirements of the NEC, there are also many industry standards and best practices that should be followed when installing and maintaining electrical systems. These include standards from organizations such as the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, or IEE, and the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA. These standards provide guidance on topics such as wiring methods, grounding, overcurrent protection, and surge protection. Finally, it is important to emphasize the importance of ongoing training and education for electricians and other electrical workers. The electrical industry is constantly evolving, with new technologies and new codes being introduced on a regular basis. It is essential for electrical workers to stay up to date on these changes in order to ensure that they are able to safely and effectively perform their jobs. NEC 210.25 covers opacity, the current carrying capacity of conductors. It provides tables and guidelines for determining the allowable opacity of different types of wires based on their insulation size and installation conditions. When determining the appropriate size of conductors for circuit, it's crucial to consider not only the load that the circuit will serve but also factors such as ambient temperature, the number of conductors in a raceway, and voltage drop. NEC 250.122 provides requirements for equipment grounding conductors. These conductors are used to connect the metal enclosures of electrical equipment to the grounding system, providing a path for fault current to flow back to the source. It's important to size equipment grounding conductors correctly to ensure that they can safely carry the maximum fault current that could occur. NEC 408 covers switchboards, switchgear, and panel boards. These are the main distribution points for electrical power in a building. Panel boards contain circuit breakers or fuses that protect the branch circuits. Switchboards and switchgear are larger assemblies that are used to distribute power to multiple panel boards or other equipment. When selecting and installing panel boards, switchboards, and switchgear, it's important to consider the size of the building, the amount of power required, and the need for future expansion. NEC 430 covers motors and motor circuits. Motors are a common load in many buildings, and they require special considerations when it comes to electrical wiring and protection. Motor circuits must be sized to handle the starting current of the motor, which can be several times higher than the running current. Motors also require overload protection to prevent them from overheating and burning out. NEC 440 covers air conditioning and refrigeration equipment. This equipment also has special electrical requirements, including the need for dedicated circuits, disconnect switches, and overcurrent protection. Air conditioning and refrigeration equipment often contains motors, compressors, and other components that can draw a significant amount of power. NEC 500 through 516 cover hazardous locations. These are areas where flammable gases, vapors, or dust may be present. Electrical equipment used in hazardous locations must be specially designed and approved for use in those environments. Hazardous locations are classified based on the type and concentration of the hazardous material present. NEC 600 covers electric signs and outline lighting. Electric signs and outline lighting are often used to attract attention to businesses and buildings. These installations require special wiring methods and overcurrent protection. Electric signs and outline lighting can be powered by either low voltage or high voltage circuits. NEC 700 covers emergency systems. Emergency systems are designed to provide power to essential equipment during a power outage. These systems typically include generators, batteries, and automatic transfer switches. Emergency systems are required in many types of buildings, including hospitals, schools, and high-rise buildings. NEC 701 covers legally required standby systems. Legally required standby systems are similar to emergency systems, but they are required by law rather than by the NEC. These systems typically provide power to equipment that is essential for safety or public welfare. NEC 702 covers optional standby systems. Optional standby systems are not required by law or the NEC, but they can provide peace of mind and convenience during a power outage. These systems can be used to power non-essential equipment such as appliances, lights, and entertainment systems. In addition to the specific requirements of the NEC, there are also many general safety practices that should be followed when working with electricity. Always energize circuits before working on them. Use properly insulated tools. Wear appropriate personal protective equipment, such as safety glasses and gloves. Never work alone. Be aware of your surroundings. And if you are not comfortable working with electricity, hire a qualified electrician. Regarding the specific issue of the building inspector's requirement for a separate house panel, it is important to understand that building inspectors have the authority to interpret and enforce the NEC. However, their interpretations must be based on a reasonable reading of the code. If you believe that the building inspector's interpretation is incorrect, you have the right to appeal their decision. The appeals process typically involves submitting a written appeal to the local building department. The building department will then review your appeal and make a decision. If you are not satisfied with the building department's decision, you may be able to appeal to a higher authority such as the State Building Code Agency. When preparing your appeal, it is important to gather all of the relevant information, including the specific code sections that you believe are being misinterpreted, documentation of your electrical system, and any expert opinions that you may have obtained. You should also be prepared to present your case clearly and persuasively. In some cases, it may be helpful to hire an attorney to represent you in the appeals process. An attorney can help you to understand your legal rights and to present your case in the most effective way possible.